Hello and welcome back to another FPL video on Fantasy Football Scout. It's Game Week 7 team selection time with Gianni, as always, finding out how we did in Game Week 6 and looking ahead to Game Week 7, any transfers, captaincy thoughts, that kind of thing. Gianni, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, mate. All good. Yourself?
Yeah, as well as can be after that awful week. You actually did all right points-wise compared to a lot of people, but there was a lot of red arrows in the community. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was quite nice actually because I enjoyed seeing all the red arrows, if I'm honest. I mean, this is a game where you're playing against everyone else, right? So when you're seeing loads of red arrows, you can only smile. I still got a red arrow, but my score seemed to be very close to the average. So I'd take that.
Yeah, you definitely did better than me. We'll come on to your team in just a sec. I just wanted to quickly say we are still teamed up with Fantasy 5. If you want to check them out, there's a link in the description below. You just have to pick one player from 5 different matches, as you can see on screen, who you think is going to beat the points total on screen. So Ashley Barnes, 4.5. He gets a goal, he'll beat 4.5. That's the kind of gist. But you can check it out in the link in the description below. And then at the end of the video, I will check out or show you my picks, which didn't do well again last week, but this week, who knows, might be the week. But I'll show you when we've been through Gianni's team for Game Week 6 and Game Week 7. So let's quickly take a look at Game Week 6. So to be fair, yeah, you got 48 points, you took a 4-point hit, so 44 total. I think, honestly, I know 44 wasn't enough for a green arrow, but if you got that, you were kind of treading water. Anything above, and you were kind of looking real good. And to be fair, the kind of things you said, you bought in Kilman, he started again. Obviously, you got a clean sheet from Sice, and you kept Jimenez because you thought he could do well, and you wanted to get Kane another way. So, how do you feel the week went, and what's your feeling around kind of Kilman and Sice going forward?
Yeah, I was delighted that I kept Jimenez. And actually, once I got off the show to you when we filmed last Monday, by Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd sort of thought about it. And but I think Wednesday, I pulled the trigger on actually a 4-point hit. Any way I could of keeping Jimenez in the team whilst getting Kane, I did. I got there. It meant that I sold Reece James, brought him down to Kilman, sold Brewster to Kane. I had lots of money banked. Reece James went and got 8 points. So my 4-point hit actually, I would have been 6 points better off if I hadn't have made it. But moving forward, I've got Kane in my team and I've got rid of James, who is going to be a rotation risk. So no, I mean, Kilman was potentially a gamble, but I knew, look, if Kilman didn't start or doesn't ever start, we know it will be Sice starting in that left centre-back role. So look, I've got 2 players in my squad there for potentially 1.5 positions, because we know one of them will play left centre-back every week and the other one has a good chance of playing, i.e. Sice, left wing-back. However, Marcel is fit, came on, but I still think Nuno will look at that Wolves defence and go, we were pretty good against Newcastle. It took a very late free kick goal for us to concede. Before that, 2 clean sheets on the bounce. I think that back 5 is going to stay as it is. And I think Marcel might have to do something very good off the bench to get back into this team. And look, if Kilman ends up dropping out, I've got a 4 million defender on my bench that doesn't play. Not the end of the world. So yeah, I was happy with that purchase.
What about Trossard? Because I also had a Brighton attacker expecting big things against West Brom. I think they've only conceded once now in the last 2 games. Ivanovic, he's come in and he's doing the business there. What do you think about Trossard and Brighton in general?
Do you know, when I took Trossard, Andy, I don't know if you remember, we discussed it and I kind of said, I don't know if I'm ready to have 2 Brighton players in my starting 11 each week. And I think, and I did this off the back of Brighton looking really good in the opening couple of weeks, really good against United when they lost in late fashion in the game in which Trossard hit the woodwork 3 times. And since then, it's just been downhill. And I kind of completely see why I had reservations about having 2 players from Brighton in my starting 11, because since then I've had blanks. So look, I don't know if Trossard is going to stay in my squad long term. He might become sort of first sub as I look to improve my squad. So is he a fire I need to put out? Probably not. He still looks bright. And look, I'd be worried if he was coming off at 55 minutes every week and was the first sub, but I think he was 3rd sub and he's still looking quite good. But yeah, more owners, Trossard owners, you're thinking, how many goals are we going to see from this team at the moment? Lamptey could have got the assist at the weekend. Quite unlucky. It was obviously an own goal when it went in off. I think it touched 2 defenders on the way in, but Lamptey still looks bright and I'm happy with him. But yeah, it's not ideal having 2. I mean, you've got Morpie and Lamptey as well, have you, Andy? How do you feel about having 2?
And Basuma.
Yeah, he's on your bench, I guess.
Yeah. It's a bit of a worry. I think defensively, the numbers are looking okay, but they keep finding a way to concede. And then attacking wise, I don't know. I only saw bits of the highlights from the West Brom game. I watched the Palace game. I just feel like for a lot of the game they just do a lot of nothing. Like against Palace, they just didn't want to mix it up at all. They had so many opportunities just to put a ball into the box, and they would just stop, cut inside, try and pass it around. Never got through. And when they did, Morpé's finishing was just kind of, I don't know, non-existent almost. So I'm a little bit worried. But then this is a team that early on did really well.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's massively changed? I don't know. Maybe other teams have just got up to speed. My only kind of slight doubt in my mind is that Potter did like to rotate quite a bit last year, and I wonder if that's coming if they don't start getting some really good results. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it was just a draw last night, but that's a game they should be winning. West Brom at home.
It is. That was a bank. That was part of my thinking why I bought Trossard in. It was looking at that fixture going, that's nice. But, they brought Danny Welbeck into the squad. We could see him, if he gets fit. He ended the season quite well at Watford. I say ended the season. I think he only got 1 or 2 games, game week 37 and 38 last season. But I wonder if Potter mixes it up, as you say, and goes, you know what, let's give Danny Welbeck a run. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of Brighton fans saying we play brilliant football and we've just been unlucky. You can only be so unlucky for so long, right? Luck balances itself out. And something in that Brighton team isn't quite right. Maybe they're just not clinical enough. Maybe they're not ruthless enough. I don't know.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but when I hear they play great football, when I see them, I see that translate into a lot of possession without a killer ball. Basically.
Sideways passes.
Yeah, that's what it was against Crystal Palace. Now, don't get me wrong, Crystal Palace are a tough nut to crack, right? They do defend deep, they do defend well, they're organised. Like Burnley against Spurs last night. Did Spurs do much wrong? No, but Burnley were just very organised and it was difficult to break them down. And to be fair, Spurs didn't really have that killer ball there. The goal ended up coming off of a corner. I think in the second half, up until then, they'd hardly had a shot or a touch in the box. So sometimes these games are difficult. So, and against the tougher teams early on, they did put up a bit of a fight, and were unlucky against United. To be fair, they're probably unlucky against Chelsea as well to not come away with a point, because Chelsea didn't play that well in that game. So I'm not ready to write them off, but yeah, there's a few concerns and maybe cracks starting to show there. But I'll bring up your team for next week, right? So you've got the double Wolves. So you've got 0.3 in the bank. Yeah. We discussed last week that at some point, potentially, you might need to upgrade a defender, because obviously Seiss and Kilman's great if they keep both starting. But if Marcel comes in, one of them's going to drop out. Mm-hmm. And on your bench, you've got Dunn and Mitchell, who, to be fair, at this point, we don't even know if Mitchell's going to lose his place either. He's played the last 2. So are you thinking about a defender transfer this week, or are you just going to risk it one more?
The plan was always to go defensive transfer this week, but seeing how things panned out, seeing that Mitchell is still starting, seeing that Kilman and Seiss both started and did quite well, I'm actually going to roll the transfer, I think, and look to upgrade one defender the week after. And that one defender might end up being Seiss. We don't know. It could end up being Kilman. It probably will be done, but maybe Mitchell. Again, it's another week's worth of data to see who is starting. Van Aanholt could come into the Palace team. Mitchell could make way. And then again, I would want to move him on. Or maybe we see Roman Seiss lose his place. I don't think we will, but we just don't know. So I'm not going to make an unnecessary transfer, because seeing who starts this weekend will probably force my hand, because one of my players, there's a good chance one of them could miss out. Although saying that, I think Mitchell probably keeps his place, and I think Kilman and Seiss will too. And then if that's the case, then easy upgrade, I go done. I'm likely also to sell Jimenez at some point, and that gives me the money to upgrade that defence. So if it's Dunn that makes way or Seiss that makes way, I have even more money to spend there. But the Jimenez fixture, I always wanted to keep him for Crystal Palace. I might keep him for the foreseeable. I don't know. I'll see how he looks against Palace. But I was happy with triple Wolves for this next round's worth of fixtures.
And if obviously not looking to do it this week, but who have you got your eye on as a Jimenez replacement?
Same as everyone else. Antonio, with the fixture swing, I think Antonio's got a tough fixture this weekend. I think it's Liverpool, and he's got doubts over his fitness. But then after that, I think it's West Ham, Fulham on the 7th of November. Now, if Antonio is fit, I think we'll see his price soar that game week, and there'll be a lot of Jimenez sellers as the fixtures do swing, and it saves you a lot of money going Jimenez to Antonio that week as well. Yeah,
unless you upgrade elsewhere. You've obviously gone for a big hitter route in this. So you've got Son, Kane, Sterling, and Salah. Most people would only have 3 of those,
Yeah.
and probably one of Sterling or Salah or Son would be a little bit cheaper, like a Grealish or a Zaha. How are you feeling about that going forward? Because Man City, again, I mean, they got their goal, and to be fair, there was a couple of times when Sterling should have probably got more. There was a ball from Cancelo, I think it was, where he just didn't square it properly, and that was just an open goal from 6 yards. But how are you feeling about Man City in general? Because it just feels like it's not clicking for them right now. And Aguero's injured now as well, again. What's your feeling with them?
The Aguero injury really harms Sterling's chances of falling each week. KDB just comes back and then Aguero's off. So look, I think it's very clear when we watch City that they are missing a couple of integral pieces to their starting 11. And with De Bruyne out or Aguero, Jesus, one of the sort of number 9s out, you really see a dip in their performances. But also, we're all just so impressed with how they started the season against Wolves on that first game week for them. I think it was game week 2. I was very happy to flock towards them, and now I'm watching the likes of Sterling and thinking, you're an expensive asset in my team if you're not looking like you're going to, return or haul each week. Saying that, I'm very reluctant to sell because I like having I think he's 7% owned, Sterling, so I like the fact he's a bit of a differential. I'm not desperate for the funds, and I just feel like I say it every week, but City are one of those teams that could just surprise you and turn up and score 5 or 6. I feel like they've still got that in them. This is a team that not long ago, remember, Project Restart, scored so many more goals than everyone else. It wasn't that long ago, and they had injuries then, and they've got a good enough squad to cope. So look, Aguero out probably could mean Sterling playing down the middle, which isn't great for him. But I'm reluctant to sell, and he's certainly not one I'm looking to move on. I like having a squad full of big hitters. I tend to do it most seasons. I compare my teams to my mates, and I've often got weak squads, and I've often got more big hitters than they have, but I've got a weaker squad than they have, and I'm happy with that philosophy, if you like. It gives me more captain choices each week. It does mean that I can't afford those sort of mid-price players like a Jack Grealish, who I'd actually quite like. It means you have to make do with the Trossard, for example. But I'm happy with the shape of the squad at the moment.
Yeah, I quite like the idea with this squad of saving a transfer and just risking the defence one more, because there's big things you can do then. Jimenez to Antonio would let you do Trossard to Grealish, and it would let you do a defender upgrade as well. And suddenly you've got a squad where you've still got those 4 big hitters, but you've got the good cheap players as well. A couple more questions before we come on to captaincy. So you're playing Lamptey and benching Mitchell. Have you got any consideration to doing it the other way around? Because Jimenez has scored the last 2 weeks, but Wolves have not looked fantastic going forward, whereas Spurs looking pretty damn good, although not against Burnley. So is it just an attacking thing there with Lamptey?
I played around with it. This time yesterday, I had Mitchell in my starting 11, and I had Trossard on the bench, and I had a 4-3-3. And then watching Spurs last night, I thought Burnley were the better team. I just thought, you know what, I fancy Lamptey to get at this Spurs back line. And just because Lamptey and Trossard are both quite attacking players, I thought Brighton might just surprise us. Brighton tend to do quite well against good teams. Let's think back this season. They were unlucky to lose against Chelsea on game week 1. They were really unlucky to lose against United, was that game week 3. So I think Brighton could do something against Spurs, and therefore I'm going to go with them. And also because I've got Jimenez, I just probably should take Mitchell out because I'm committing to Wolves already. And this could be one last hurrah for Jimenez. So look, I fancy him to score, and therefore I probably don't want Mitchell in my 11. So yeah, I think I'll probably keep Lamptey and Trossard at the expense of Mitchell.
Nice. And what's your feelings with Calvert-Lewin? Obviously, it's a bit too early to probably be talking about taking him out after 1 blank this season for 6 matches. I mean, he's had pretty good returns. Yeah. But they're missing a lot of key players now. At the time of recording this, it's Tuesday afternoon, so we're not going to find out for a few days what the deal is with James Rodriguez, because he didn't look comfortable towards the end of the game, but they'd already used their subs. He's still yellow flagged. You got any worries about Calvert-Lewin, or is it just way too early to even be questioning him?
Yeah, it's way too early for me. I mean, I've got question marks over Everton, of course. Like, this is a team that has an incredibly strong starting 11. They've had a brilliant start to the season. But, there was always going to be question marks when Richarlison comes out, or if James had come out, and is that squad depth there? And now Luka Dean out as well. Can't underestimate the influence Luka Dean has on that that team for someone like Calvert-Lewin. Brilliant in the air, gets so many crosses in for Calvert-Lewin. But I look at the fixtures and they are brilliant still. So Newcastle, I'm expecting Everton to score in that game. Yeah, then it's United, but that could still be goals. But then it's Fulham, Leeds, Burnley. That's really nice. Yeah, even if Everton aren't looking great, even if they've got injuries, you want Calvert-Lewin against Fulham and Burnley and Leeds and Newcastle. So yeah, he's a mainstay in my team for a while. He'd need to do a lot wrong to come out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I've literally just been thinking about it there. Like Leeds, Southampton just didn't let Everton play, and I wonder if Leeds could do the same. And then Burnley just defended so well against Spurs. Then it's horrible fixtures. I'm not saying to do it, and I won't be doing it either because I'm looking at that Newcastle Fulham game. I'm thinking if you're brave enough, you don't want it to cash in. I don't know.
It costs you a lot of money to bring him back as well. Remember, this is a player that's gone up in value potentially more than anyone in the game. I need to check
7.7. There can't be too many other players. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like Kane and Son haven't gone up that much. So yeah, I think he must be. He's gone up 0.7 million.
Yeah, and he's owned by over half. He's like 57% ownership. So yeah, I'd be scared to sell him at the moment with those. The Newcastle Fulham fixture, as you say, are the ones, but then you look at Leeds and you look at was it Burnley and think, okay, they could be a little bit tricky, but still not bad fixtures. So yeah, and then it does swing. Come game week 12, I think it's Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal, and then Man City are in there as well. So yeah, maybe after that you look, but for the next set of a wave of 5 fixtures, he's staying for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And captaincy, obviously a lot of people went Salah last week. You did as well. To be fair, Kane was vice-captain for a lot of people and he didn't really do much, just the one assist. You got any thoughts about taking off Salah or are you just going with him again?
I just can't get it right, Andy. I look at my overall rank and just go, if I'd had 1 or 2 big captain returns, I'd be in an okay. I'd be happy with my rank because that might mean it was a million better, which is where a lot of respectable managers are at the moment. But I just seem, wasn't a fail this week because everyone's failed. Even Kane, it wasn't a great return with his 5 points. But I just want that 1 week where I nail captaincy and I thought this week, with game week 6 was going to be it. Salah so close with the VAR call, then the one that hit the post played well, and I still believe it was the right call. And this week again, I'm toying between Salah and then probably one of the Spurs lads, and Sterling is always in my thinking. Although Sheffield United have started to look better, and I think with Aguero out, I'll probably be away from Sterling. So look, it's very likely to end up on Salah or Kane. Again, the Champions League and Europa League games for those teams will probably help my thinking there. See how Salah looks in the champs. Likewise, see how many minutes Kane gets. But at the moment, I'm veering towards Salah again.
Good stuff. Yeah, fingers crossed it pays off. That was my first captain blank last week with Salah captain, and it was so close watching that game.
When I knew you were captain in Salah, Andy, and you told me this time last week you were, and I spoke to people like Late Riser, they were nailed on Salah. I just thought, yeah, this is going to be my week. All the managers that do well on captaincy are going Salah, and then let me down.
Yeah, it was a frustrating watch. Obviously, you've mentioned it hit the post. It was offside. Offside is offside, right? But it was so close, millimeters. It would have been a Trent assist. A lot of people owned him at the same time. So yeah, frustrating. But I think it's good not to. For anyone out there, really, that Captain Salah, you shouldn't let a blank put you off captain him next week. Yeah. So he looks really good against West Ham, I think. So yeah, okay, good stuff. I'll just go through my picks for Fantasy 5. So this is the screen you get, basically all the players for every single game. For anyone who wants to check it out, like I said, there's a link in the description below. So it's tricky again this week. So I'm just pulling up the picks I made earlier. So I'm going for, in the first game, Chelsea against Burnley. So Chelsea, decent defensively. Not that impressive going forward last few games. Maybe Frank's going a little bit too much one way. Can't quite get Werner, Havertz, Pulisic going just yet. So I'm going to go for a Burnley clean sheet in this one at home after seeing how well they defended against Spurs. Like Werner and co are not going to have much space in behind. So I'm going for Tarkowski, who has to beat 2.5. So yeah, I'm going to go for him clean sheet. I'm assuming you think Chelsea are going to win that, right?
I do think Chelsea will win. I think we'll change the system as well. We can't go with the back three or 5 like we did against United, against Burnley. I don't think so. But Tarkowski, I mean, look, Chelsea are terrible at conceding from set pieces,
Exactly.
right? So Tarkowski's brilliant in the air. I don't think that's a bad shout at all.
He nearly scored against Spurs. It's a goal or a clean sheet. He doesn't need both. So I'm going for Tarkowski. In the Liverpool game, so I'm always umming and ahhing about whether to go for the popular picks or the not so popular. But I think in this one I'm going to go for Trent, because if he's 7.5 points he has to beat, so that's a clean sheet and 1 attack and return. And I just think and you can, by the way, you can change your picks now up until deadline, up until kickoff. Sorry, the first game. If we don't get any news about Antonio, or if he's ruled out, I think that really does, it'd be detrimental to West Ham going forward. I mean, Haller will come in, I'm sure, he'll be doing okay, but it's not the same as Antonio. He's been so good for so long. So I think it's going to be Liverpool clean sheet, and Trent's going to get an attack and return at some point, right? I know his underlying numbers are not as good as last year so far, but he's still a great player. So I'm going for Trent in that one. And then Newcastle-Everton's one of the more trickier ones. The fact that Everton have conceded 2 goals in the last, I think, 2 or 3 games doesn't make me hugely confident about a defence that's going to be missing Coleman and Luka Dean. Probably Coleman anyway. And with Pickford in goal, there's always a risk there. So I'm actually going to go for Callum Wilson. He still has to get 2 attack and returns, but I've looked through and it's very tricky to find someone who's definitely going to be that. Like CalvertLewin would have to get 3 returns. So I'm going for Callum Wilson now. What do you think? We kind of spoke about Everton, right? Two goals in the last 3 games. Not good, right?
Yeah, not great at all. And Calvert-Lewin has started the season so well, and so has Ancelotti. But you just wonder if you kind of, it's that initial burst, and then it's okay. We're still Everton. We're not going to be challenging for the title. But again, I don't know. I never like sort of betting on Newcastle. I very rarely buy Newcastle players in FPL either. I don't know. Steve Bruce just always strikes me as quite an underwhelming manager in terms of FPL. His teams never seem to score that many. They often lose clean sheets when you think they're going to get clean sheets. So I always struggle with Newcastle under Bruce. But, if there is going to be one guy there, then it should be Wilson. You've got the penalty appeal. And with a player like Maximan, you're like, he's going to draw quite a few penalties this year because he's so tricky. So, yeah, not a bad shout.
All right, moving on to Man United Arsenal. Again, this is pretty tricky because most players have to get a couple of returns. But one player who doesn't is Paul Pogba. Just 1 goal. And just to play 60 plus minutes. So I'm going to go for him, knowing full well this is a huge risk, and I will wait to see what Solskjaer says, who plays in Europe and stuff, because obviously it hasn't started the last 3 games. But I've got a feeling he's going to have to come back into the side at some point. Solskjaer cannot just keep him out, not an 80 plus million pound player. Greenwood, he'd have to get 3 returns against Arsenal. So would Rashford. So it's crazy numbers, I think, for them. And Arsenal are just so bad going forward. I would just not betting on them at all. So I'm going to go for Pogba. I guess, look, for 10 grand, you got to go for some outside picks. So I'm going to go for him. And then my last pick, I'm actually going obvious in Spurs versus Brighton. And I'm going to go for Kane. So Kane has to get 3 returns. Son pretty much has to get 3 as well. So I'm just going for the guy with penalties. Because at some point, Kane is going to get a penalty or 2 in one game, and he's going to get that big score without having to do very much. So why not against Brighton? So Harry Kane, Paul Pogba, Callum Wilson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and James Tarkowski are my picks for this week. So if you want to check that out as well, link in the description below, and you can see what that is all about. Gianni, thanks very much, as always, for joining me.
Good stuff. No, thanks for having me. Look forward to chatting next week.
Yeah, it would be good. Hopefully there's green arrows all around. Although you don't like to see green arrows for other people, so it's just a green arrow for yourself. I can respect that, right? If everyone got green arrows every week, it'd be much more difficult to win this thing. So, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. When you've had my start to the season, Andy, you enjoy seeing some people's misery over their teams because, I've had to endure so much for the opening months. So look, whilst I want people in the community and those watching this video to do well and finish the season, well, and, only matters where you finish the season. Remember that, guys. I certainly did enjoy seeing a few reds.
Yeah, I used to say at the end of my streams, I hope you all do really well, but not as good as me. Because I want to win the whole thing. So yeah, I know where you're coming from. But either way, we'll be back same time next week to find out how you did. So thanks very much for watching. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit subscribe, and we will catch you again next week.